Got quiet waiting for 5:15, didn't it? We good? All right, good evening, everybody. For the record, it's Thursday, November 18th, 2021, time for the special meeting of the Wenatchee City Council. I've called the meeting to order, and always we start with the pledge to our flag, and the city attorney, Steve Smith, said he's never done this before, and he wanted the chance to do so. So Steve, would you lead us in the pledge to our flag?
Thank you, Mayor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, City Attorney Smith. And for the record, we have 5 council members present, and we have Councilmember Huffaker on the phone with us. So we have 6 this evening, and Ruth is traveling. So first item on tonight's agenda, the consent items, which includes approving this evening's agenda, which is a little bit lengthy today. Vouchers that are minutes from the previous meetings. I would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I'd make a motion that we approve the consent items consisting of this evening's agenda, vouchers as presented to us, and the minutes from previous meetings.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Kulas, second by Councilmember Cuevas to approve this evening's consent items, including the agenda vouchers and our minutes from previous meetings. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Checking for delay. Keith, you there? I think he might have just beeped off. Did you hear
That's
that?
what it was.
Yeah, I'll call him back in a second.
Okay.
So we had 5 in favor, against? Motion carries. We have one presentation tonight regarding Small Business Saturday Proclamation, and Councilmember Hornby, would you read that into the record for us, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Proclamation Small Business Saturday, November 27th, 2021.
Let's wait, you read.
Okay.
We'll see if we can bring it back.
Whereas the city of Wenatchee, Washington celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community, and whereas according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 31.7 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.7% of firms with paid employees, and they are responsible for 65.1% of the net new jobs created from 2000 to 2019. And whereas small businesses employ 47.1% of the employees in the private sector in the United States, 88% of the U.S. Consumers feel a personal commitment to support small businesses in the wake of the pandemic. And 92% of small business owners have pivoted the way that they do business to stay open during the pandemic. And whereas 97% of small business Saturday shoppers recognize the impact they can make by shopping small. 85% of them also encourage friends and families to do so too. And whereas 56% of shoppers reported they shopped online with a small business on Small Business Saturday in 2020, and more than 50% of consumers who reported shopping small endorsed a local business on social media or shopped at local businesses because of social media recommendation. And whereas the city of Wenatchee, Washington supports our local small businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our commitment, and whereas advocacy groups as well as public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, I, Frank J. Kuntz, Mayor of the City of Wenatchee, Washington, do hereby proclaim November 27, 2021 as Small Business Saturday and urge the residents of our community and the communities across the country to support small businesses and the merchants on Small Business Saturday. and throughout the year. I witness, therefore, I have caused a seal of the city of Wenatchee to be affixed on the 18th day of November 2020. Frank J. Kuntz, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Hornby. Linda, come on up. Who do you have with you today?
So Mayor and Council, I would like to introduce my new bravest soul. Start a business in the middle of a pandemic in one of the largest buildings in downtown. Takes bravery. This is Creighton. He's our newest, and this is the mayor. I'm going to let him say something, and I have a shop small bag for you.
Perfect. I'm going to give this to Creighton. You can have that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda. God bless
All
you
the friends
guys.
at home can hear.
Oh, thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you. Boy, those are nice and colorful.
It's in the back. It faces this way.
Thank you.
Nice.
Got an extra one?
You know what? He's going to help. Yep.
He thinks he's one of us now.
I shop small. I'm a small shopper.
We'd be lost without you.
What you just read.
All right, Creighton, the floor is yours.
What you just read is my wife.
Well, thank you for having me tonight. We've been open, well, first, my company is called Henry Haro. We're located at 30 South Wenatchee Avenue in the old bank building. It started out, we were going to take a small portion of the building, and we were convinced to take 4,500 square feet. So we had a plan to get it open by September 1st. It didn't happen as quickly as we wanted it to, so we pushed it out to October. We got open, we're faking it, so it's looking like a big pop-up right now. But on our last day will be December 30th, the way we are now. We're going to close for 2 months, and we're going to renovate the full main floor and put it in, make a beautiful home store out of it. So we'll be home, kitchen, gift, just product lines that are not available here. And, you know, we have a lot of people moving from the west side, and what we're seeing is they're responding well to products that they haven't seen here before. So we're excited. Our first employee started this week. We'll add 2 more in the spring. And we're just plugging along. And we're setting up for Christmas in about 2 days. So
Excellent.
we're ready to go.
Well, we're excited, and Linda's told me great things. I haven't been in your store yet, but
Thank
I'll
you.
make sure I get in the next week or so.
Come and see us, yeah.
I'm super excited to have a new retailer
Before it's all gone.
downtown.
It's selling fast. It's selling fast.
Well, you can save me something, can't you?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
Perfect.
Okay,
Well,
great.
congratulations.
Great. Thank you very much.
Congratulations on your new business, and let's shop local on Saturday. Or, yeah.
I'll be there all day.
All right.
Great.
Thank you. All right. So Councilmember Huffaker blamed this on me, so we're going to try this one more time.
Welcome to Meeting Center. Please enter your access code followed by pound. You are about to join the conference.
All right, Keith. All right, Keith, we'll see if this works again.
Hey, I am back.
All right.
Yeah, it disconnected me and put me on hold again, so I don't know what happened.
All right. Technology. All right, so our next item on tonight's agenda is citizens' comments. This would be a time if anybody wanted to address the council about something that's on today's agenda. We do have a public hearing item regarding our budget, but we would recommend comments then for that. Otherwise, anybody have anything to address the council on any items? Seeing no takers, we will jump onto our agenda item. It's somewhat lengthy one today. So first is regarding interlocal agreement with the county regarding the sewer extension on Knowles Road. Jeremy Hoover.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Jeremy Hoover, Senior Utility Engineer for the City of Wenatchee. I'm here to talk about the next sewer line extension that we have going up in Sunny Slope. It is in School Street and Knowles Road. These 2 projects are being built in association with a county-led roadway reconstruction project in Knowles Road. It's being built in advance of a proposed roundabout that's going to be built at the intersection of Easy and School Street. The projects were originally 2 separate contracts that we were going to let separately. Knowles Road was going to go in with the county project, and School Street was going to be built separately ahead of that project. After having conversations with the county, they wanted to do some additional storm drain work in School Street south of Knowles Road, basically too easy. So it made sense to try to combine these two projects and do them with the same contractor, combine the traffic control, and get it all done at one time instead of trying to shut down School Street between Knowles Road and then do it again. One of the big challenges that we're facing is going to be a crossing of the Irrigation Canal. There's two big pipes that we have to get under, so we have to do it relatively quickly. That's why we were going to try to do it this winter, or this fall, but because of the inclusion of the county storm drain work, we ended up having to move it off. So the county has now agreed to incorporate that work into their larger project, and they will be doing all the construction management. We will be providing an inspector to go in as necessary when the sewer line work is being done. We had previously executed an interlocal agreement with the county in July, I believe it was, for the construction of the Knowles Road improvements. And the item that you have in front of you now is a revision to that interlocal agreement to allow for all the additional construction in School Street to be done with their project. We had RH2 on staff to do the design, or on contract to do the design of the work in School Street between Easy Street and Knowles. And since we had RH2 doing all that work, they had all the survey, everything was prepped, they already had all the profiles. We went ahead and had them do the storm drain work for the county so that they wouldn't have to start that portion from scratch. This interlocal agreement also provides for the reimbursement of the costs that the city incurred for the design of the storm drain.
Timing on construction, are they going to try to do it next year?
It went out to add day before yesterday.
Oh, okay.
So they're planning on opening bids mid-December and awarding the contract in January for early spring construction.
So they're thinking around where that irrigation pipe is, they want to get that done before there's water in there?
Exactly, that's the whole idea. We're going to be boring underneath there, so it's going to be another trenchless installation, similar but hopefully easier than what we did at the 285 crossing and the US 2 crossing a couple of years ago for the mainline sewer extension.
Okay. Excellent. So any questions for Jeremy?
Yeah, Jeremy, in terms of cost, is that created some efficiencies and savings and things, or is it going to cost us more because of the additions, or?
It's definitely going to create some efficiencies. With the county having Knowles Road totally ripped up for reconstruction, that means there's no pavement work that we have to do in that particular corridor. With the county helping out with their storm drain being included in the School Street work, we also have a cost sharing for the traffic control. I would anticipate, since there's only going to be one contractor involved with this, a prime contractor, that there will be some cost savings in terms of mobilization. We won't be able to specifically see the cost difference because it's only going to be bid once, but it just makes total sense that one contractor having one laydown yard, not having to coordinate with multiple other prime contractors, it'll be smoother. And the county's willing to do most of the construction management. So that takes a little bit of load off of our staff too.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Jeremy? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion for the City Council to approve the revised interlocal agreement between the City of Wenatchee, Chelan County for the construction of the Knowles Road and School Street sanitary sewer improvements, and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement.
Second?
Motion by Councilmember Hornby, second by Councilmember Bailey, to approve the revised interlocal agreement between the City of Wenatchee and Chelan County for the construction of the Knowles Road and School Street sanitary sewer improvements, and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is updated agreement for animal control services between the City of Wenatchee and the Humane Society. So Laura, and I see Taylor is here, and someone who works for Taylor. Come on up.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor, City Council.
Hi.
Come on.
Third chair.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Laura Merrill, Executive Services Director. As you mentioned, Mayor, we have Taylor Sharp, who's the Executive Director, and Sergeant Ian Mallory, who's also an Animal Control Sergeant with the Wenatchee Valley Humane Society. So the contract before you is a 3-year contract. We do have an existing contract that goes through the end of next year, but there was a request for an increase in the amount. So there was a 15% increase for 2022, and then 3% increases for the 2 years thereafter. So we have decided to do a revised contract, which is what you are considering tonight. The increase in the contract is to cover costs for higher call volumes, as well as the associated compensation for the control officers in order to be able to do that very special work. Let's see here, what else? I think that kind of sums up the logistics component of it. Is there anything else that, Taylor, that you or Sergeant wanted to offer?
I will just offer, I know that this is a bit of a unique proposal, and I appreciate your consideration. Our officers had a very tough year in 2020, as a lot of people did, and it caused us to lose a couple good people in regards to pay, in regards to the working conditions. So one of the steps that the Humane Society did, because we take this very, very seriously, is the board of the Humane Society unanimously decided to increase the officer pay in February of this year, and that is a cost that's been incurred by the Humane Society, not a cost coming from our contracts. And we believe that it's a necessary change moving forward, and that is why we're approaching all of our jurisdictions for this change.
And how are the other jurisdictions? Are they all adopting something similar?
Yes, so far everyone has had the exact same.
Good. And everything, I mean, I was out there this summer right after you'd gotten here for, I can't even remember what the event was, but it looked like lots going on. And
We have a lot going on. There's no such thing as a slow day for us. Our call volume has increased exponentially even this year over 2020, which was a bit of a surprise for us. Our intake has also increased exponentially. So we are staying busy. Our officers are doing a lot of really good and really hard work.
good. Any questions for Laura or Taylor or anyone? Obviously, this is in the budget that we're going to adopt hopefully later on today. These numbers are all incorporated in that budget. So we've got it accounted for on our side.
You say that your call volume has gone up considerably, and is there, what I guess two interrelated questions. One is, what is the most common type of call, and has that changed in the last couple of years? Are we seeing different kinds of calls for response, or has it stayed pretty?
That's a great question. So to give just some background, when I'm talking about a call volume increase, total calls from City of Wenatchee in 2019 were 5,073. In 2020, totals were 6,525. And as of October 18th this year, so far, it was 7,063 calls.
Wow.
So we're increasing a lot.
Yeah.
Our case volume is also increasing exponentially, and the most common case is dog at large. So dogs out roaming, which isn't too surprising, but we're also seeing an increase in almost every other type of call as well.
Thank you.
Do you have anything to add?
We are also seeing an increase of, unfortunately, aggressive dog calls. And I truly believe it's because of COVID, where everybody's home
Right.
and everybody's interacting where they never did before. So we're dealing with that as we can.
Great. Any other questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
You're going to take a motion for the City Council to approve a 3-year agreement with the Wenatchee Valley Humane Society for Animal Control Services and authorize the mayor's signature.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Cuevas, second by Councilmember Harold, to approve a 3-year agreement with Wenatchee Valley Humane Society for Animal Control Services and authorize the mayor's signature. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Taylor. Thanks, Ian. Appreciate you guys
Thank
being
you.
here
Thank
tonight.
you, Council.
Thanks for your great work.
Thank you for the good work you guys do.
Thank you.
All right, we have 2 payroll-related items. So Carrie Page, our HR director, will come up. The first is regarding salaries for non-represented employees, and the second is regarding hourly rates. So Carrie?
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. For the record, I am Carrie Page. I'm the Director of Human Resources. And what I have in front of you today, as the Mayor stated, are 2 ordinances. The first one I'll discuss is the Management Administrative Group. This is to set the classifications and wages for year 2022. As many of you remember, In 2019, I implemented a system for classification review, specifically with regard to wages, that more closely aligned with the frequency of classification review in our union groups. And at that time, I reviewed all positions within the management administrative group and slated 25 positions for review again in 2021. Of those 25 positions, 17 were above our city policy threshold of out 5% from our comparables. And with those 17, they're eligible for review. And so we processed those increases. The average is approximately 5.5%, not including COLA, across the board. We also implemented 1 reclassification and 4 equity alignments that specifically have to do with the grades and the percentage between grades. We had 4 positions where they were approximately $25, $50, $75 from the grade above. And because it's so close, just to clean up our wage schedule, we adjusted that position up to thin out the number of grades. So we currently have 22 grades within our salary schedule rather than what would have been 25, 26, which is typical, not typical. Just for the mathematicians in the group, we have, I believe, 136,000 of that was an impact to the general fund, and then an additional 50 to other funds. So what I'm here to ask today is for your authorization to move forward with the proposed schedule for 2022 and the classifications listed.
So generally speaking, when you did those, you looked at our 5, 6, 7, 8 comparable cities,
Yes.
came up with some sort of an average, and then I obviously looked at this at the end with Brad and Laura and made a few small changes, but overall, this is sort of the average of the
Yes,
number of comparable cities that we use through AWC or MRSC to sort of figure out where we're at.
that is correct.
And these are these are the sort of the average. They're not on the upper end of the
Yeah.
range. They're not at the lower end of the range. They're just sort of in the average of the range.
Yes, so there are 8 comparable cities determined by review of MRSC data trends annually. We also vet these through the union group, and it's included in the collective bargaining agreement, so we use it citywide. And of those 8 comparable cities, we do average out from those to garner what we work from for our positions here at the city.
All right, and again, as I've mentioned to you guys before, these are all incorporated in the budget, and I think we've done the best we can to try to hit the averages, and so this is always an interesting discussion. So this is only for the, the non-rep management group, because AFSCME has their schedule and police has their schedule. So these are basically for all the non-rep. And again, we adjust those and try to get them in the right averages, and Carrie does a great job of looking at all the job descriptions and making sure they all sort of fit in the right spot. So it's something that we do every couple of years just to make sure we're staying in the right bucket. And we did have some internal discussions, this idea that I've always said there's a little discount for living and working in such a great place as Wenatchee, but on the same token, it shouldn't be such a huge spot that when you go out to hire somebody, the next person who doesn't have near the experience of the person that just left your employment, and you're going to pay them more. So we've made it clear that we're just going to stay in the center of those averages, and we feel like that's sort of the right spot for us to sort of land. And I'm just trying to be fair to all the employees and for the great work that they do. All right, any questions for Carrie? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I move for City Council to approve ordinance number 2021-32, establishing positions for regular status employment within the City of Wenatchee Management Administrative Group, fixing the compensation to be paid for the calendar year 2022, and repealing ordinance number 2020-39.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Harold, second by Councilmember Cuevas to approve ordinance 2021-32, establishing positions for regular status employment within the City of Wenatchee Management Administration Group, fixing compensation to be paid for the calendar year 2022, and repealing Ordinance 2020-39. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
And hourly rates.
So for our temporary group, the next ordinance up for your review is regarding temporary pay and policy for year 2022. The policy itself is a carry through from prior years. The only change is you'll notice, as you are all aware, we're 80 cents up on our minimum wage. So the base of what we'll offer a temporary coming in starts there. And then the only other change of note is our maintenance worker and utility worker. If we bring a temp in at that, we're finding that the trend is higher than what we were offering previously. So we've moved that high end max to $25 an hour. I believe it was 22 prior. That's where we're finding people that could actually hit the ground running, which is what we need in that capacity. Doesn't necessarily mean that we'll pay that. It's just nice to have that option if we have a really good candidate.
And apparently we have at least one really good
We
candidate.
do,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, any questions for Carrie? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Well, Your Honor, I'd make a motion for City Council to approve ordinance number 2021-33, establishing pay ranges for temporary employees for the calendar year 2021 and repealing ordinance number 2020-40.
Second.
Guessing that should probably say
I was
2020.
going to say that should be 2022, should it not?
2022, yeah, yep. All right, we got a motion by Councilmember Bailey and a second by Councilmember Harold to approve ordinance 2021-23, establishing pay ranges for temporary employees for the calendar year 2022 and repealing ordinance number 2020-40. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
your work
much.
on this.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I will recuse myself on this next item.
Okay. So our next item is regarding appointment to the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee. So Laura, you got that one?
Good evening, council. The item before you is a resolution for the appointment of Kyle Mccovin to the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee. So we've had a vacancy on the Lodging Tax Advisory. Actually, we have a couple of them, so we're grateful to have Kyle submit an application, and at the regular meeting on October 20, the committee approved his appointment to the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee. So that will fill one of our generator positions. Since he is employed by Coast Hospitality, and his term will begin at the beginning of 2021 through 2023. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Excellent. Kyle did a great job. I would entertain a motion if we have one.
Your Honor, I'd make a motion that the City Council pass resolution number 2021-38, appointing Kyle Mccovin to the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee for a term through December 31, 2023.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Kulas, second by Councilmember Hornby to adopt Resolution 2021-38, appointing Kyle Mccovin to the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee with a term ending through December 31st, 2023. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to appoint some, one person to the Parks, Recreation, Cultural, Arts, whatever.
We'll get there.
Committee.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Dave Erickson, Parks and Recreation Director for the city. This evening, I'm requesting approval of Resolution 2021-37, which would appoint Nick Rohrbach to the Arts Rec and Park Commission. Nick has a background in geology and natural sciences, has volunteered for the Land Trust, and is very familiar with our Saddle Rock project. So with that, we'd recommend his appointment to the commission with a position 7 with a term which expires on December 31st of 2024.
All right, any questions for David?
Question, just a comment. I've worked with Nick. I think this is a great match, so appreciate him signing up. That's great.
David, your I guess call it staffing on your board. How are you fully staffed, or you have a full board, or do you have big holes there?
Yeah, we have one more vacancy
one more
on
to
the
go.
commission. And we're hoping to find an artist. Marlon Peterson, I think I might have mentioned at the last meeting, has left. He was a kind of our artist on the commission. So we'd like to try to find an artist to replace him, so we have that specialty on there.
Okay. Well, good.
All right, without any questions, I entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I move for City Council to approve resolution number 2021-37, appointing Nick Rohrbach to position 7 of the Arts, Recreation, and Parks Commission.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Harold, second by Councilmember Bailey, to adopt resolution 2021-37, appointing Nick Rohrbach to position 7 of the Arts, Recreation, and Parks Commission. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, David. All right, Alyssa, small change order regarding downstairs construction.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Alyssa Schaefer, Facilities Manager for the Public Works Department. I mentioned a few weeks ago that I would be back with additional change order requests, and here I am. The Wenatchee City Hall redevelopment project has 2 new change orders number 4 and 5, that I am presenting for your review and approval. The project continues to progress forward with the completion of the structural components, which includes the concrete shear walls and the mezzanine structural steel installation. The 8 sky lights have been installed, and as soon as the concrete deck is poured, framing will begin. You may have noticed that the sidewalk construction progress has slowed down a little bit. The stall on the sidewalk replacement stems from the city's request to remove and replace additional sidewalk panels and light structures, which are addressed in change order 5. Change order 4 and 5 include additional mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and structural adjustments similar to change order 3. The site work that I just mentioned, additional general condition expenses for 14 added calendar days, additional fire alarm and fire sprinkler work, not included in the original scope of work, and modifications to the casework at customer service. The specific breakdown of the dollar amounts is outlined in your council agenda packet, and the total for both requests equals $106,470 plus tax. It is our recommendation that the City Council approve the contract change order with T.W. Clark Construction, LLC, and authorize the mayor's signature. Are there any questions?
Can you just walk us through the need for the sidewalk and the light change?
Yeah, so the sidewalk, there was a significant shift from the tree that was installed out front. So there's 30 foot of sidewalk that is a safety concern. So we decided to remove that. We're waiting to replace it until we know who's going to do that. The light structures, there was some damage during demolition to one, but it was also too low for the grades that were designed. So we were trying to reuse the existing light poles, the light pole bases, and in the alignment that would be created with the new design, it would create a bird bath and a tripping hazard. So we decided to pull those and install new ones in 2 locations, one on Kittitas and one on Met Howe here.
Thank you.
And overall, we're on budget because you had $1 million worth of contingency, and we've used up a couple $100,000 so far, a little bit more. We're not quite on time,
25%.
but we're working our way through the contingency in a way that you anticipated we probably would.
Correct. We're about 40% done with construction as far as dollars are concerned. And we have spent 25% of our contingency.
Lisa, where are we on we've got all the holes cut for the windows or what's the status on that?
The windows are to be delivered December 7th to Spokane. They will be shipped here and start installed as soon as possible. But there was a delay in the manufacture, in the process of the manufacturing.
And how much is that going to impact or delay, push forward, whatever
It's really not
final
on the
completion?
critical path for delay of the overall project. It will delay getting things winterized, but they can continue to frame on the interior with the temporary structures that they've got installed for weatherproofing.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions for Alyssa? All right, I would then entertain a motion if we had one. It's item G.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion for the City Council to approve the contract change order with T.W. Clark Construction LLC and authorize the mayor's signature.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Hornby, second by Councilmember Kulas to approve the contract change order with T.W. Clark Construction LLC and authorize the mayor's signature. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Alyssa. I do have one quick question for you. We had a unwanted visitor a couple of weeks ago. Did we do something that would prevent unwanted visitors in the future?
We have resecured the facility. We have put plywood up where they were getting in.
Okay.
We have an open construction site, so it's difficult. All of our floors are secured at night.
Yeah, I don't know what got up here yet.
No, they did not.
Okay.
So the wall is constructed between Local-Tel and the city.
Okay.
It is 100%, so we don't have that potential risk as well.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, next item is water and sewer
Valid
code
collection.
revisions. What's that? Yeah, Keith?
No, that was your operator.
Oh,
I think Keith's going again.
Keith, you there?
Good.
I'm here.
All right, all right.
Good
Darcy and
evening.
Jessica,
Yes.
code updates, what's going on?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jessica Shaw, Deputy Public Works Director, Utilities.
Good evening, Darcy Mattiota, Utility Planner.
So we're excited to be here tonight. We've been talking to the Finance Committee and Public Works Committee and working hard with Financial Consulting Services Group on reviewing our water and sewer rates and making sure that we're collecting enough revenue to keep up with all the changes that we're seeing lots of increases in material costs. Of course, labor costs are going up and construction costs have continued to increase. So just making sure that we can continue to keep our utilities operating and safe and providing the services to our community. So before I get into some of the changes that we're proposing tonight, just wanted to thank Darcy here. She did a lot of the heavy lifting on putting the code changes together. But we also had other staff who helped us review this. Putting code together takes a lot of time. So we put a lot of effort into this. So thank you to Donald Nelson, Jenny Rayson, who's in the back, Denise Pierce, and of course, Steve Smith for helping bring it all to the finish line. So it was definitely a team effort to get this all here tonight. So first of all, with sewer, we are looking at adding language to allow and kind of regulate the use of grinder pumps. They've been out there in the system before, but we decided that staff needed some language so that we could work off of that and some policies added to our pre-approved plans and standards. We also had talked about increasing or continuing the 6% for sewer, so there's really no change on January 1st. But starting in 24, the rates were supposed to drop back to 4.5%. We're proposing that we just continue that 6% thereafter. We also had some discounts for multifamily, that there still will be some discount, but we're taking away the deep discounts and trying to better manage that to collect some more from those development fees. We've seen a ton of multifamily coming in, and so I think the initial rates and changes that we had worked great, but now we're looking at raising those rates, kind of bringing them back up into comparable with other communities of how they bill for multifamily. So the biggest thing is we used to bill based on the water meter. Now we're going to charge them per unit, which is actually more common for billing system investment fees. We also had some language clarification for our discounts for sewer. This is when we do sewer extensions into existing areas. The language had been fairly open, and so it applied to everyone. And really the intent was to incentivize those existing homes that were on septic to connect. So we have limited that discount to just those single-family residents that already have septic. And then we also are looking at having an ongoing increase to those connection fees to kind of keep up with inflation, and so we're proposing a 3%. For water, we are proposing a 3-year rate increase over the 6% that we've been increasing so far, and that is to really get out there and help us install some new mains and make an effort at replacing those old aging water mains that don't get any younger and will continue to cause operations and maintenance issues and possibly service outages. So just to help improve reliability and start diving into that effort, we're proposing 3 years of 12%, and that'll help primarily fund those capital projects. And a key piece of that is we'll also be looking for low interest loans, which you'll hear more from Darcy about in a little bit. So we're getting right on it. And then after that, we would go back to the 6% after 3 years for water. We had some language that we removed that waived all the system investment fees for multifamily. So we're now reinstituting some system investment fee. And then we're also proposing that we increase our system investment fees. And again, this is money that goes back into reinvesting into our system to help keep that replacement program going. And as with sewer, we're also proposing the 3% increase on those connection fees to keep up with inflation. We also had some other changes to kind of clarify extensions of sewer and water mains to make sure that that development is extending them beyond their development or at least past their development so the next person that comes along can pick that up. Darcy, did you have anything to add?
No, I think you covered it all.
All right. Are there any questions?
I have a few. So
Okay.
Public Works has looked at this a lot, and I appreciate both of your effort on getting this out there. But how are we telling the story to the public of the need for this, and what's our plan there? Because 6% continuing on 12%, they start glossing over. So could you help explain that?
Yes, thank you, Travis. That was some excellent feedback that we had received during the committees, which is we have some planned efforts to really let folks know how we're spending their money. And one of them is we're planning a newsletter for next year that'll go out to our customers that'll talk about the rates and the projects that we have planned and why these projects are important and the condition of our system and how this work that we're doing and how these funds are being put towards increasing safe quality of water and sewer services, and reliability of those services really is the key factor. So that's one of our efforts. We're also looking at improving our website information. Our GIS department ran by Matt Collins, and some of our staff have been doing some really cool things. If anybody saw our steering committee newsletter for the stormwater, it's a story map, and so very interactive newsletter. We're hoping to do something similar with the newsletter that we'll have available in print as well as on the website. We're also looking for other opportunities to, once we get some of these projects going, to really showcase, I'm thinking, billboard, reader board, something to say, hey, this is your utility dollars at work here on Crawford Street, here on, we'll be replacing the asbestos cement mains on 7th and 8th Street. So places where we can really highlight, here's the good work that's happening with the money, and thank you for helping make that happen.
Great, perfect, thank you.
One thing to add to that, in addition, through the committees that came out, is they asked us if we would phase in the connection fees for developers, which gives us an opportunity to notify them and let them plan ahead for their budgets next year. The connection fees are going into effect in March, where the rates will go into effect in January, what we're proposing.
Thank you, Darcy.
I guess I'll just comment, for those that are watching at home or in our audience, we have committees that do a lot of heavy lifting. So both in terms of the provisions for the sewer improvements and the water, all of that stuff was vetted through both Public Works and Finance and got changed a couple different times before it got here today. and some very in-depth discussion, on the sewer rates, especially, the 6% ongoing, I think is certainly reasonable, but in order to spur on multifamily development, we had reduced our sewer connection fees, and lo and behold, we got some 1,500 apartment units built in a very rapid period of time. But now as the market has sort of changed, and you can look in other, like East Wenatchee and other places that haven't adjusted their fees, and maybe it's not needed anymore as, again, not that we don't need more housing, but that incentive probably isn't as necessary as it might have been, say, 6 or 7 years ago when we started this. So making those adjustments seem to sort of make sense. On the water side, what I would say is, you look around the country and you see cities that are really struggling with lead in their water and other sorts of things, and those communities that didn't invest in their water systems and the sorts of troubles that they got in. And even with a 12% rate increase for a couple of years and dropping down to 6, our local, not competitor, but the local other provider that provides into the city of Wenatchee will still under their rates. And so it's just, again, you have 100-year-old pipes. These things need to be updated. What's the average age of a pipe? 70 years or something? I mean, it's a big, yeah. So this is aging infrastructure. This is something we shouldn't just pass by. These are things that we need to take seriously to make sure that drinking water is safe and the condition of the pipes are what they're supposed to be. So there's been a lot of work, and almost all the council members have either sat on either the Finance Committee or the Public Works Committee and have seen a lot of the work that staff has done. And quite frankly, we didn't accept all of staff's recommendations. So we did some tweaking back and forth and stuff. But overall, I think we have what is a good program for going forward and trying to make sure both of those utilities are in good financial setting. And then especially the drinking water, that we get a chance to start working on some of those 100-year-old AC pipes. Is that the right term?
Yeah, AC
Look at
pipes.
me. I am
asbestos
on
cement,
my
yeah.
game today. All right, any other questions for either Jessica or Darcy?
I have a simpler question. I happen to own a grinder pump, and I'm kind of curious what the problem with privately owned grinder pumps would be.
So one of the concerns that we had was people were putting grinder pumps into commercial businesses instead of replacing their gravity sewer main. And there can be some issues with that. We also saw some grinder pump installations that weren't necessarily well vetted or to the standards. And so we really felt there was a gap that we needed to provide some guidance for those grinder pumps. And then the other kind of important piece of the program is making sure that if a home has a grinder pump, that there's some agreement that then can carry through with the property so that a future property owner is aware that there is a grinder pump there, because there's a little bit of an educational process because as you probably know, Councilmember Huffaker, if the power goes off, you probably don't want to be taking a shower or other things because now, your sewer isn't leaving the building. So we're really hoping to do a better job of educating those customers that do have grinder pumps moving forward. And of course, yeah, there's definitely a time and a place for them, especially as we get out into the Sunny Slope area and have some smaller, ravines and places where gravity sewer just isn't going to work.
Okay, I thought maybe you were distinguishing between just a lift pump and a grinder pump, but it sounds like you're just wanting people to know whether they've got a pump in general.
Correct. And we would only be regulating the grinder pumps located outside the house. The lift pumps would continue to be part of the building code.
Okay, that clarifies it. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, thank you.
All right, any other questions for Jessica or Darcy? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I make a motion for the City Council to adopt ordinance number 2021-34 and ordinance number 2021-35, amending Chapter 4.08 Sewer Rates and Charges and Chapter 9.12 Water Rules and Regulations of the Wenatchee City Code.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Kulas, second by Councilmember Hornby to adopt ordinance number 2021-34 and ordinance number 2021-35, amending Chapter 4.08 Sewer Rates and Charges and Chapter 9.12 Water Rules and Regulations of the Wenatchee City Code. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, ladies. That was a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I know you've been at it for a long time. So thank you for all your work and great discussion. And now you got some work ahead of you to go
Yeah.
build some more water lines. So
Yeah.
celebrate for about 5 minutes and go back to work. Yeah.
That's right. Thank you so much for your
All right.
support. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
Mr. Jammerman, code revision, and Darcy.
Waiting for my illustrious. You gotta do it. While Jesse's, thank you, Jesse. Most of you on the committee have seen this already, so I'll go through this quickly, but this is a separate ordinance to fix a gap in our code regarding maintenance securities, primarily for commercial multifamily projects. So each year, millions of dollars of improvements are installed within the city by new development. Most of these improvements are owned and maintained by the city after completion. If there's a defect in the workmanship after installation, in most cases, the contractor should be responsible for those repairs. We have a gap in our code that doesn't require that maintenance by multifamily and commercial properties, so we're trying to address that gap and fix it with this language in the code. We worked with our city attorney, and we're inserting this into Title IX that requires that, and then we'll be coming back in 2022 to fix a couple of little minor things with the subdivision ordinance or in the zoning code on subdivisions requiring a similar maintenance so that they're all treated equally. This is common practice throughout the state, and particularly over in Douglas County, they require this security of all developments, whether it be commercial, multifamily, or subdivisions. The maintenance securities are limited to improvements greater than $10,000 or more in value, so we're not capturing those small little developments. It would require them to post an 18-month security, and then at approximately month 16 or 17th, we would re-inspect those and require any defects to be repaired, and then we would release their security. The developer has the option of doing cash, they can buy a bond, or they can do a bank account set aside. So if adopted this evening, this would become effective January 1st, 2022, but it would be based on permit application. So in reality, the likelihood of anybody actually having to post a maintenance security would be late into 22 when they finish their project. We're not going to make projects that are under construction right now, they would not be part of this code amendment. So, is there any questions?
Yeah, Rob, how is this different from just, I guess what would be regular bonding of a construction company? They are bonded, I assume, when we accept them to bid and so forth. So how is this different from what kind of the normal bonding process that we require?
So they are licensed and bonded by the state as a general contractor, but when they're done with their work, you can't go after that bond for a defect on their workmanship unless you specify it prior. So in some cases, and oftentimes, the contractor says, well, I'm done with my work, and the developer will post the maintenance bond to ensure the work. So it's up to them to work that out, and based on the dollar value of the work. So there's this, there's a specific dollar set aside for those improvements. And so as an example, a common one that you are all familiar with is project's completed. 6 months later, we notice the sidewalk is cracking. So we want the contractor that did that work to come back and repair that, and not have to put that as an example on the property owner or on the city to repair that. So that's how it essentially works. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And that sounds like a very good thing for us to do. Yeah.
Just to clarify, this isn't work, these contractors aren't city contractors. They're working for a private party, so we don't have a contract with the contractor and the bonds that go with that. I think your question might have been under that understanding.
Yeah. Okay.
No, so we are not contracting with these contractors. This is a private.
I see. Okay.
But they're doing work in our city right away, and so we had no way to we had no security.
Right. And that would protect us because we accept those, sometimes those improvements like sidewalks and
Yeah.
streets and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yep.
if they defaulted during construction, as an example, they backed their dump truck into a street light and damaged it. If they refused, then we would go to their state after their state license and bond in that case for like an insurance claim.
Mhm.
But this is sort of it's a different bucket, the way we handle these.
Good, thank you.
All right, any questions for Rob or Darcy? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
We're on, I'd make a motion for City Council to adopt ordinance number 2021-37, revising Chapter 9.01, pre-approved plans and policies of the City of Wenatchee Code.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Bailey, second by Councilmember Harold, to adopt ordinance 2021-37, revising Chapter 9.01, pre-approved plans and policies of the Wenatchee City Code. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Keith, I was just going to call you, but apparently you're there again. Every so often I hear a beep and I can't tell if you're there or not. All right, next item is Darcy, Department of Health Drinking Water Revolving Fund Loan Request Application thing.
Hey, hello again. For the record, I'm Darcy Mattiota, Utility Planner. Keeping in line with what we just spoke of regarding the rates, I am here tonight to ask for your approval to apply for 2 drinking water state revolving fund loans. The 2 loans that I anticipate applying for require me to have record approval to apply by November 30th, and that's why I'm bringing it to you this evening. It's not committing us to the funds. It's simply letting me apply, and hopefully we get the funds. The 2 projects that we are applying for, one is a pre-construction loan. That will allow us to do planning and design work for one of the older water mains in our district on Crawford Street. So we would like to replace that steel line, and this will be the planning efforts. The second loan that we would like to apply for is a construction loan for something that's already been designed, and we've been wanting to get started on this. The construction loan is going to replace AC main, the last of our AC main, which stands for asbestos concrete, in 4 different locations in our city, including 8th Street, 7th Street, 1st Street, Chelan, and a little bit of water main in the Mar parking lot area. Both of these are drinking water state revolving fund loans. The pre-construction loan, is $2,740,000. It's a 2% loan origination fee with 0% interest rate. The construction loan is $1,054,987.54. There's a 1% loan origination fee and a 1.75 interest rate for 20 years. So if I could get your approval tonight, I will submit those applications, and we should hear sometime in January if we will be offered those funds.
So are you confident that we'll be offered, or is it like a 50-50 shot, or is it like almost 100% certain we'll get it? What's the?
I've been told it's pretty good. It's looking better with the infrastructure bill they just passed.
Okay.
Because it's funding those funds that we can then dip into.
Okay.
It's looking good. I feel pretty confident.
All right. So yeah, basically it's just giving Darcy the approval to actually apply for the loan. Doesn't mean if we got it, we'd have to accept it, but at least gives her the authority to apply for it. So with that, I would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I move for City Council to approve the application for drinking water state revolving fund loans for project number 1918, AC Main Replacement Project, and project number 2202, Crawford Avenue Water Main Replacement.
Second. Motion by Councilmember Harold, second by Councilmember Hornby, to approve the application for drinking water state revolving fund loan for project number 1918, AC Main Replacement Project, and project number 2202, Crawford Avenue Water Main Replacement. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Darcy.
Thank you for your time.
Mr. Burdick, flood hazard prevention, Department of Ecology.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Cliff Burdick, Building and Fire Official. I'm here tonight to request the City Council adopt Ordinance 21-28, amending portions of Wenatchee City Code, Chapter 2.05, Flood Hazard Prevention. This stems from a community assistance contact that Department of Ecology, who contracts for FEMA, contacting us earlier this year. And they review our code and have a discussion with us. And typically, this is done every 5 years. Typically, we have some amendments with that contact, and which is the same thing we have this year. If you review the red line amendments, you'll see that it looks like there's a lot of revisions to the code. A lot of it is very minor in nature, a lot of definitions. In fact, a lot of the definitions that Department of Ecology added aren't even in our code. They're in the state model flood control ordinance or in FEMA's requirements. So don't really mean a lot. There is one substantial change, and that is right now in our AO flood zones, which is shallow flooding, it requires us to have finished floor 1 foot above highest adjacent grade outside, so that if floodwaters could come up a foot and it won't damage the residents. There is a new code that actually FEMA went to the International Code Council for the 2018 code cycle, proposed a change in the building codes, the International Building Code and International Residential Code, to add an additional foot of freeboard to FEMA's requirements. They didn't do their own requirements. They didn't revise their own requirements. They revised the building code requirements. So it passed. And so now in the Washington State adopted building codes, we have to follow whatever the firm map is, which we have is AO1s, so plus 1 foot, and we have a little bit of AO2. We have to add an additional foot. The problem with that is we have to do that, because if we don't, we are not eligible for any government funds related to FEMA. And the houses aren't eligible for any NFIP mortgage because essentially FEMA is giving us cheaper mortgage insurance for those. So unfortunately, we have to do that. So. Are there any questions related to?
The offset to that, though, is the insurance premium is dramatically different, if I remember right.
It is supposed to go down, even though
Whether
FEMA.
it does or not is.
Right, it is supposed to be cheaper by going to 2 feet, even though FEMA has the authority to raise rates of 8% a year for the foreseeable future. Couple that with maybe right now, I can give you a quick update on where FEMA is at in our flood zone amendments. They are currently in the county right now doing some surveying up Squilchuck Creek, and it sounds like they're going to be down in the city of Wenatchee soon after. And I think we have a meeting with FEMA tomorrow to discuss what they're going to be doing there.
Yeah.
And I know Jessica has relayed some information to them because the county's flood control people have actually surveyed, I think, number 1 canyon. Is that right?
Yes.
Yep. And so we have sent that information off to them for that. So
good.
So what's this do to building a house, cost to build a house? Is it extra couple $1,000, $1,500?
Oh, I would say at least, because you got another foot higher of concrete.
Right.
All the way around your foundation.
Okay. Before you start running all your.
So your typical, typical here, we have a 2 foot stem wall.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to be up a little higher with a higher stem wall.
But we don't have any choice.
No, unfortunately.
It isn't like we could debate this and vote no.
Yeah.
Right? We have to adopt
Unfortunately,
it.
you're right.
Yeah. But we still have to adopt it.
Yeah.
You bring us lots of things like this, you know that? Yeah. Which is fine, it's just this is the nature of your job,
Yeah,
right?
it's not fun.
Yeah. All right, any questions for Cliff? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I make a motion for the city council to adopt ordinance number 20-28, amending portions of the Wenatchee City Code, chapter 2.05, flood hazard prevention.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Hornby, second by Councilmember Bailey to adopt ordinance, I've got it as 21-28, amending portions of Wenatchee City Code, chapter 2.05, flood hazard prevention.
I think for the record, that should be ordinance 2021-28.
Okay. Let's go with 2021-28. All right, any discussion, questions for Cliff? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Cliff, appreciate you
Thanks,
being here
Cliff.
tonight. Glenn DeVries, Columbia River Homeless Housing Task Force appointments.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Glenn DeVries, Community Development Director. As you recall, the cities of East Wenatchee and Wenatchee have entered into an interlocal agreement for the establishment of a task force to oversee funds for the homeless program between the two cities. As part of our agreement and actually required by law, we need to appoint our task force to provide oversight of that program. In the interlocal agreement, which is consistent with state law, we have different categories of folks that we need to appoint. One, so Wenatchee needs to appoint 3, and then 1 member is jointly appointed by the 2 mayors. That member is someone who's homeless or formerly homeless, so that will be done in conjunction with the 2 mayors. But the other members are appointed by the Wenatchee City Council. And we've been coordinating with East Wenatchee on appointments so that we have a range of folks to be on the task force. And then the next step, once the task force is appointed, is we'll be looking at non-voting members which brings great discussion and in the decision-making that represent a whole series of interests and nonprofits for the homeless issues in the community. So before you, we are recommending a member who resides within the city of Wenatchee. Historically, the city of Wenatchee has appointed a council member, and that member proposed is for council member Linda Harold. And the second member is typically needs to be a representative of a nonprofit organization. And we've been working with East Wenatchee, and we're looking at different ranges of folks for this. Our recommendation for you is Steve Clem, who works on a lot of housing issues with Chelan Douglas County Volunteer Attorney Services, with folks who are potentially looking at evictions and other issues. And then the third recommendation is a member who resides within Chelan County, and we're recommending that Chief Steve Crown be appointed, who's been actively involved in our homeless programs at the city. Would stand for any questions that you might have. We hope to have our first meeting in January.
That's nice to know that Linda Harold lives in the city limits of the city of Wenatchee. Make sure we clarify that, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, I do.
Okay, I know you do. It's just nice to read it. Yeah, any questions for Glenn? I think this is a good group of people. Good start. We'll hear what East Wenatchee does in terms of their appointments, and at some point, Mayor Crawford and I will get together and do a joint appointment for, and I think we know who that person probably is going to be, so. Nice to get that up and going. So any questions for Glenn? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I make a motion for the council to approve resolution number 2021-35, appointing 3 members to the Columbia River Task Force, Homeless Housing Task Force for 2-year terms, these being Linda Harold, Steve Clem, and Steve Crown.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Kulas, second by Councilmember Cuevas to adopt or approve resolution 2021-35, appointing 3 members to the Columbia River Homeless Task Force for 2-year terms, that being Linda Harold, Steve Clem, and Steve Crown. Discussion?
Is it okay for me to vote on this?
Oh, I'd abstain if I was you.
Okay, I will abstain.
All right. Noting one abstention. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you.
All right. Ruth, is Ruth here, or Aaron Kelly? Who's doing the Mylar? Oh, that's Glenn.
Welcome back, Glenn.
I was looking for Ruth, and I just excused you. I didn't know you were doing this one.
I thought I would sit in for Ruth so she could be with her family this evening for this short item. So we had binding site plan 21-03. This was an application by the city of Wenatchee and Localtel, who are co-owners and condominium members for this building. And the way that's set up when a change is requested for the condominium that has been recorded, you do a binding site plan alteration. That's been approved with the City of Wenatchee hearing examiner, gone through the process. It's been reviewed as far as the submittals and found to be consistent with the conditions of approval. And so before you this evening, you have a request to authorize the mayor to sign the final Mylar for the amendments. The amendments allows for a variety of changes for improvements and changes in parking that both Localtel and the City of Wenatchee desire for the facility. Are there any questions that I can try to answer?
So I'm signing this because we're one of the owners. I'm not signing this because I'm the mayor and we're signing something. We're signing as we're one of the owners of the condominium association, and my signature is required in the Mylar.
You are signing it under our subdivision code as part of our binding site plan alteration process.
Okay.
And then, yes, you're signing it as a owner as well.
Okay. And there were very small changes, both.
Correct.
Something
And,
around the walls in the back, and Dimitri was using one of our rooms that was supposed to be ours, and when the electrical stuff came out, the big transformers, that was to be grouped, and that became Dimitri's property, and it's just some very small adjustments, I think.
Correct. It allows construct a vestibule on the south side of the building, enclosing the loading dock, facility improvements for the parking area, such as relocating the trash enclosure, common electrical utility equipment, and repositioning the driveway on Chelan and Metau.
All right, any questions for Glenn? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I move for City Council to authorize the mayor to sign the final Mylar for the Federal Building Condominium Survey and Binding Site Plan Alteration BSP-21-03.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Harold, second by Councilmember Bailey to authorize the mayor to sign the final Mylar for the Federal Building Condominium Survey and the Binding Site Plan Alteration BSP 21-03. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you.
Aaron Kelly, bring us some money.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. Aaron Kelly, Public Works Operations Manager. I'm here tonight to present the Department of Commerce Behavioral Health Facilities Program Grant to renovate the city's Parkside facility. The Parkside property is located at 1230 Monitor Street. The property was acquired back in 2009 and was intended for a regional support network for behavioral health. The city currently leases the property to the Women's Resource Center and American Behavioral Health Systems. Over the past 3 years, the city has pursued funding to aid in the repairs and resolve maintenance issues at the site. This grant award is for $1,960,000 that will fund repairs focusing on the south side of this building that houses behavioral health services. Some of the items needing repaired are failing concrete, asphalt, retaining walls, fencing, landscaping, roofing, kind of a laundry list of items that this money will fund to be able to make the repairs. The funding will also, though, reimburse the city for approximately $110,000 of expenses the city's acquired since 2018. The plan, if this is accepted, we estimate going out to bid in the first quarter of 22, and with the hopes of finishing the project in the first quarter of 23. Is there any questions in regards
Yeah, I mean, the
to
history of Parkside goes way back, and as you remember, the county got lots of money to update the building, and when ABH walked in, a lot of the improvements that were done either weren't done correctly or weren't finished. And it sat empty for a while, so when ABH walked in, there was leaking stuff, and so then there was a mold issue, and since the lease agreement was with us and ABH didn't have any money, we went in and cleaned up the mold remediation and did some fixing, and we basically said, this isn't our bad, this is the state's responsibility, because we own the building, but they're running the programming. And so we immediately got a commerce grant for $2 million 3 years ago. And it's taken us 3 years and one reiteration of renewing it to get a contract with Commerce so that we could actually, one, get paid back for the mold remediation that we paid for, and secondly, be able to do the improvements that are needed to sort of finish the building and put it in a condition that makes it usable. There's some walls that are just all kinds of stuff that that happened here. So it's been 3 years in the making. What we thought was going to be a $2 million check written to the city that we would then put in our Parkside fund and use as it was needed. Didn't quite turn out that way. But at least we're getting reimbursed for the money that we spent on the mold remediation. And then we've got some money to make other improvements, and hopefully that's enough to get that really large building up and in a condition that we needed to be in.
correct, and also keep our tenant there.
Yes.
This is having followed this for my entire career in the city council. It seems to me it kind of falls into the category of no good deed goes unpunished. But with all the things, your grocery list here of things that need to be fixed, in your professional opinion, are we at a point where this thing is beyond, help? We keep throwing, a million here, a million there, pretty soon it adds up to real money.
I think.
Should we just crunch the thing and start over?
I think since whether or not at the last time they renovated it, I think that was the option. I mean, there should have been the option at that point to be able to, look at demoing the whole thing and starting over. We still do have a laundry list. A lot of it's exterior. These were some of the items that they identified back in, I want to say the early 2000s on a report of, there's been a retaining wall that's leaning pretty significantly for about 15 years, and yet, granted, it didn't necessarily make the building inoperable for them to be able to provide these services, but yet also at some point it's going to fall, right? So a lot of this maintenance was just kind of deferred, and so now with this money, it's to go in there and redo the asphalt, redo some of the concrete that's basically making water and or the runoff go towards the building and continuously have maintenance problems. The roofing, one of those repairs would be to actually also help prevent any other sort of moisture to get in, to prevent any mold to come back. Thinking that some of that was originally from probably the building sitting vacant for so long. So the hope is that we can make these repairs and hopefully not continue to spend money, have the money pit of this building has been in the past.
And really, we don't have a ton of money into this. We've got a bunch of staff time. And once we get this money back from mold remediation, we don't have a lot of money in the building. The issue gets to, let's get it, spend this money, get it up, and then, what happens 10 years from now when the ABH contract runs out? Is the building going to still be usable? At that point, we would go back to the state and say, you're in charge of mental health and you need to kick in some more money. So we'll see. Hopefully it continues to operate. We are getting some rent payments that we're supposed to be setting aside for building repairs into the future. Fairly certain the rent that we're getting is not enough to cover some of the future repairs, but at least it will help at some point. But this will continue to be an issue of the city as long as they continue to own the building and you continue to have mental health care providers through state contracts in that building. These buildings should be either owned by the state or ABH, and the city shouldn't be in the middle of it, but quite frankly, we are, and so we'll just continue to work on it the best we can. And glad we finally got this to the final stages, and thanks to Senator Parlett, I think, who put a little pressure on Ms. Brown at Commerce, and we started getting this thing going in a way that looks like we got a deal. And but this was a long, who would have thought 3 years to get a contract, right? But here we are. All right, any other questions for Aaron? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Well, Your Honor, I'd make a motion for the City Council to accept the Department of Commerce Behavioral Health Facilities Program Grant for Project 2206, Parkside Place Renovation Project, and authorize the mayor to sign the grant contract.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Bailey, second by Councilmember Cuevas, to accept the Department of Commerce Behavioral Health Facilities Program Grant for Project 2206, Parkside Place Renovation Project, and authorize the mayor to sign the grant contract. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Aaron. Thanks for all your work on this. All right, so our last two items are regarding budget items. The first would be a budget amendment for the 2021 budget year, final few adjustments from Mr. Posenjack, and then we'll have a public hearing regarding adopting our 2022 budget. So Brad, budget amendment, go ahead.
Yes. So before we look at the 2022 budget, we need to clean up a few of the last details on the 2021 budget. And so the city, we have a legal requirement to make sure we stay within our budget. And because the city adopts very lean budgets, we don't have a bunch of fluff in our budget so that when unexpected expenses come up, and we are a very dynamic city that gets involved in so a lot of unexpected things come up, we don't have extra fluff in our budget to be able to just automatically cover it. So we have what looks like a lengthy list of budget amendments. These have all been discussed and reviewed and approved at Finance Committee over the last 5 months. And so I guess if you have any questions, let me know.
So obviously, we used to do this once a year until the auditor said we should do it twice a year. So we've already done the mid-year one. So this is just the end of year one. So it's actually less adjustments than we used to see in the past. But most of this is just giving staff budget authority on the expense side. And some of it's probably stuff they've already spent. And for the record, we'll need 5 yes votes to adopt this budget. So I will make sure we count accordingly. And Finance Committee went through this today at its meeting and approved it from their end. So if there's any questions, I'd entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I move for City Council to approve ordinance number 2021-31, amending the 2021 budget as adopted by ordinance 2020-31 and amended by ordinance number 2021-19, revoking, recalling, or decreasing all or a portion of total appropriations provided for, entering findings that this ordinance is in the best interest of the city, and requiring that this ordinance be approved by a majority plus one of the entire council.
Second?
Motion by Councilmember Harold, second by Councilmember Bailey, to adopt ordinance 2021-31, amending the 2021 budget as adopted by ordinance 2020-31 and amended by ordinance 2021-19, revoking, recalling, or decreasing all or a portion of total appropriations provided for, entering findings that this ordinance is in the best interest of the city, and requiring that this ordinance be approved by a majority plus one of the entire council. Any discussion? Fairly routine. All right, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries, 6 in favor, 0 against. All right, we have one public hearing item tonight that is regarding adoption of the 2022 budget. For public hearings, we will first hear from staff, ask questions of staff. We will then turn it over to any members of the audience that would wish to address the city council on this matter, and then finally over to the council for any action they may be willing to take. So, Finance Director Posenjack, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Well, 2 weeks ago, we did a more detailed walkthrough of the 2022 budget. We mentioned that there could be a couple minor changes, and there are two changes in the general fund. Just to note those two changes between last time we reviewed it. One, I believe the mayor played a role in having our Rivercom assessment lowered by $150,000 for next year. So that's positive movement. And then the second one was that kind of at this, we decided to take another look at our sales tax projection, and our sales tax has been coming in very strong the last several months. And we believe that's going to continue into 2022. So we were able to adjust our sales tax number up a little bit, which I believe is a more accurate number of what we'll actually receive next year. And all in all, the net effect of that ended up being that how last time when we reviewed our budget, the general fund had a negative 400 and some thousand in the recurring portion of the general fund budget. And now that negative is basically break even. It's positive 43,000, was it 43?
34?
34?
Whatever it was, slightly positive.
Yeah, 34,000 positive. So those are the two changes, and otherwise everything else in that is exactly the same as it was 2 weeks ago.
So any questions for Brad? I think for those that are at least watching from home or in the audience, you know, these budgets sort of look like they just appear out of nowhere and they're done. And, you know, our finance committee meets twice a month, and, you know, we'll meet in January, and part of that will be our 2023 budget as we start looking forward into the next year, because we just do that almost every month as we watch sales tax come in and other sort of items. And so, these are big documents and they're complicated, but we also follow them very closely. And we have a great finance team and a great finance committee that pays very close attention to everything that goes on. And what is a budget with how many different funds, Brad? 40?
44?
44 funds and $120 million of revenue, or $119 million. So it's a pretty complicated event, yet I think very well done from staff's perspective, and I appreciate the committee's work in helping us work through these issues and getting us to a balanced budget, and I think we're spending the money in sort of the right spots.
Agreed.
All right, any members of the audience wish to address the City Council on the 2022 budget adoption? See no takers. I will turn over to the council for any action they may be willing to take.
Your Honor, I make a motion for the City Council to approve ordinance number 2021-30, adopting the final budget for the city of Wenatchee, Washington for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2022.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Kulas, second by Councilmember Hornby, to adopt ordinance 2021-30, adopting the final budget for the city of Wenatchee, Washington for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2022. Any discussion?
Well, I'd just like to say that, you alluded to, there's, just a ton of work that goes into putting this thing together. And I think this is we have a very responsible budget. The last couple of years have been challenging, but in spite of that, there's just a whole lot of very positive things currently taking place and in the pipeline. And this budget gives us the ability to continue to provide a very safe and in a good place to live. So I approve of the budget.
Thanks, Jim. Anybody else wish to comment?
I just want to thank Brad for all of his hard work. We really appreciate you, and Laura too.
It's a huge group effort, and seeing all the different departments, all the directors, and all of their staff, putting this budget together is definitely not an easy task, and it's fun being at the city of Wenatchee and seeing the fiscal responsibility from all of the different department heads and all from the ground up. It's a pretty, for as complicated as it is, it's a pretty easy process when you're working with good people.
All right, well, let's see if we can pass this thing. I don't know. All right, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Excellent. Thanks, Brad. Mayor's report. I've got just 2 or 3 things for us to sort of talk about. We were attempting to get us all together on the December 30th or 29th, about then, to do a swearing in of our new council members and a swearing out, if you will, of the old council members. But we do have a couple council members who have decided to take a vacation. In fact, we have 3 that are going to be vacationing near the end of December. And so that isn't going to work out very well. So we thought we would swear in our new council members. There's some rules that Tammy's in charge of as to how and when and why. So we thought we'd actually swear them in at the meeting of the 9th. So around, 5 o'clock or 4:45, go ahead and swear them in. And then maybe at the end of that meeting, have a little goodbye to Jim and Ruth, as that will be the last meeting. So I think that's the best plan we have at this point. And Jose will be gone, but I think everybody else, at least I heard, will be here on December 9th. So I really wanted to hear from sort of Jim and Ruth.
Actually,
yeah,
I will be on vacation on the 9th.
okay.
I thought I was safe because you were going to do it on the end of December, so.
Yeah, so we'll continue to work on trying to figure out, because we do have to swear Keith in. Okay, so you need to talk with Tammy about the time frame, because it's 10 days before the end of the year or the last meeting of the year. So that's the time frame under which we have to swear you in. So we may have to do your swearing in slightly different. If it has to be that we get 3 of us in a room and do it, we can do it that way. But so it's going to we'll just have to juggle, but I think we should still plan on trying to do at least that part of it on the 9th, unless we can figure something else out. So, we're trying to sort of figure that out. The other thing I was hoping to do on the 9th was to go ahead and, since we had the new council members with us, that we would try to do committee assignments for next year as well. I know we like to do that in the first meeting of January and approve it at the second meeting, but there's a bunch of, some of those committees are meeting in between. Jim is gone, and Ruth will be gone, so we won't have anybody at some of those. So I was sort of hoping to arm wrestle through that on December 9th. I've talked with,
I'll definitely call in for the meeting on January 9th. I just won't be present.
December 9th.
Oh, December 9th.
Yes.
Oh,
I know. It's like,
I will be there on December 9th.
all right, that's even better. Okay. Okay, so you don't have to have your heart attack,
I thought
Tammy.
you said
You're right?
January.
Okay.
I thought you said January 9th.
I'm sorry. So it's December 9th. Yeah, so I think that's sort of what we'll plan on trying to accomplish, so that'll be a long night, but I'd like to, if we could get our committee assignments done, and I've talked to Mark a little bit about his, and Travis and Mike, and I talked with Jose today, so maybe we'll have a pretty good idea of what's committees, so that when we have our first meeting in January, we can just adopt those and get everyone set by resolution to the places where they go. So are you okay with doing your goodbye at the end of the night? Does that work for you? Okay, okay.
I will be there.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we do both of those, the justice they need to be done, both the swearing in and the saying goodbye. Laura, what else is on my list?
Just a couple of quick things. The Numerica PAC has invited you all to the Festival of Trees Gala this weekend, so if you're not already participating, I encourage you to go and check that out. And that they are currently having some other events. I know they did their cocktail competition last night, so I think they've had some good turnouts thus far. Rob and I met with Retail Strategies, which is the group that is advertising our North Wenatchee property earlier this week. We had a really great meeting with them. We're going to provide them some more information on the property, but they're already going to do a conference in early December to start to pitch the property. So really excited to see that going. We'll continue to update the council as that moves along. And then last but not least, next week is the Thanksgiving holiday, and we're doing an early closure at 3 o'clock on Wednesday. And that's it.
Yeah, and I'll just add a couple things. We did have Laura and I met with the Parque Padrinos, had a nice little conversation with them about Methow Park and some outreach and stuff. So I think that went well, and we've got some follow-up with them to do. I did meet with Council Member-elect Rojan Astatian on last Friday, so he's excited to get started. Great to be at the WDA banquet, or dinner last night, and it was nice that they said lots of good positive things about the city, and so that was a very nice evening. And then Jose and I the police had their Citizens Academy, and so they graduated 18 folks last night in the basement of the police department, so it's great to be there. And I think that's just such great outreach that our department does in terms of teaching the community all the things that they're working on. And I don't know that I really have anything else. Council members, anything that going on?
Jose, do you want to talk about the meeting we attended Tuesday night?
Yes, we had a great turnout with on the South Wenatchee, talking about the transportation department.
Okay, yep.
with the safety of bikes. We heard the great voices of the people, what they want for the south end Wenatchee Avenue. They do want to amplify this real concern about safety and pedestrians. They're scared of a lot of traffic coming in through. And I wish they were here. I told them to come in here so they can speak their word out, because the way they expressed their feelings was astonishing. And to me, that's what we want to hear, represent their voice and bring them here to the board. And they want everything to happen, the sooner the better, for the safety of their children, so they can start getting on their bikes out there.
Oh, good.
So,
Okay.
I mean, Linda,
Yep.
what
that's
else?
about it.
We had more. I mean,
Good.
it was a great presentation, and we're going to continue going on. He's going to bring it to the council
Okay.
as soon as we get it done.
Okay,
It was a good meeting,
It was great.
very enlightening.
good. So are they talking about some street diets and angled parking, or are they talking about
Well,
turn lane in the middle and?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, or like, there's 3 different examples he showed us where you have bike lanes on each side, and then the cars in the center, or you could have one bike lane on one side that's a little bit wider, and then the cars moved over here on, the third one was,
Was
Don't remember it.
is this Riley from the Transportation Council
Yes.
doing that?
Yes.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
good,
he did a nice job on it.
good,
I thanked him. He's listening.
yeah. So we're excited to try to do some improvements. We've talked about it for a while, and we just want to make sure that, yeah, so I'm excited for what they're doing, and I don't think that the changes are going to be all that expensive. It might be just some oil and paint, and maybe some centerline trees or something, so hopefully we can.
A lot of needs on the south end for
Yeah.
streetlights, sidewalks, just safety in general for the
Yeah.
kids walking to and from and riding their bikes.
And the other thing I think we got to be aware of at the Transportation Council, we talked quite a bit today, there's that new infrastructure bill.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember how many trillions, and the buckets of money for bridges and roads and water systems and sewer systems and sidewalks and pedestrian, and there's just, we really don't know how they're going to dole the money out, whether they're just going to send it to the state and we got to fight over the state with it, but there's some pretty amazing opportunities. And so we'll just have to make sure our staff, not that they have anything else to do, but we got to get into that bill and make sure that we're applying for grants in all the right sort of buckets, because there's going to be a lot of money spent on infrastructure, and we need to make sure we get our fair share of it. And one of the things we talked about was sidewalks today, of all things in the south end where there isn't.
That's what they want.
Yeah.
Oh, not just the south end.
Yeah, well, and yeah.
It's in a lot of areas that developed, particularly in the county, before we annexed them, when they were using the rural road standard.
Yeah.
And we've inherited those areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tuesday's Link Transit Board meeting, Richard DeRock, manager, gave a very detailed breakdown of
buckets,
of all the buckets, and yeah, it's almost scary the amount of money they're talking about. But there are, and as he was kind of going through there, talking specifically about where Link fits in and what that's going to do for us. I was also making notes and mental notes about here's a bucket for the city to take a look at. There's going to be a lot of rule writing in the next 6 months. It's not going to be a lot of money coming quickly. It's going to be something that'll, at least at the federal level, I'm sure it's going to look something like the infra grant process. There'll be buckets that do come to the state, that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of money available for us to ask for. Whether we get it or not, that's a totally different thing. But there's a lot of money out there to go after, if nothing else.
I hope we get our fair share.
Yeah.
We got a good start with 92 million from the
Yeah, we
infra grant,
did.
but that's just,
So Masawa is recruiting for, anyone that's interested in going to represent ours.
So are you going next year? So I'm going next year.
You're going?
Yes, I'm going. Yeah.
I hadn't, I
Okay.
thought about it, but I haven't made a decision.
Okay. Yes?
Well, I was going to go if Ruth couldn't go this year, and then it got completely canceled, so
Okay.
I would like to.
Okay. I think we usually budget for 2 of us, so
You'll enjoy it a lot. It is amazing.
great trip.
It really is. They need your passport, a copy of your passport. Mostly, he said right now, you really just need your passport number, and he will, if you're going, he's going to need it from you too.
Yeah, I've got mine. Still active.
Somewhere.
All right, council members, anything else for the good of the order?
Nope.
So happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Yeah.
We'll see you on December 2nd and then again on December 9th.
I won't be here.
I know. All right, we're adjourned.
All right.
Have a good night.